Okay, this is going to be a quick tutorial demo, hopefully quick, on how to do our next assignment, which is New York City Attack. This is coming off the previous lesson of visual pun, where we had to take photographic elements and combine them together. Essentially carrying on with that same idea here, except for I'm going to introduce you to a few extra little tricks that might help can create sort of fantastical scene. Okay, so for this demo you're going to use three images. You're going to need this image, which is New York City as your environment. You're going to need this running man, running businessman, and this T-Rex. Okay, so first off we're going to select our images and bring them over to our scene. And we're going to use our quick selection tool as we have in the past. Let me get my little green pointer here. Make sure you have it on the plus. Click here, doesn't select all the white. Now this is an instance where we're using an image with a white background, and that makes it easy to select the background, and then we can do something where we invert the selection to get the person. Okay, so let's finish up the selection. It didn't get the white in the negative area here, so let's click on that. Now there is an issue. This did leave out the hand because this white right here, I believe, it did get into the sleeve right here. So before we do anything about that, let's do reverse the selection. It's called inverse. So now instead of having the background selected, you can see there's no more dotted line around the outside, but it's only to the boundary of the person. So we essentially have gone from the outside selection to the inverse selection. Okay, so now I want to add the hand into the selection. I need to decrease a selection there. That looks good. Click here and get that sleeve in there. Okay. Looks like something happened right there. I'm not sure what happened. Okay. All right. That seemed to fix it. Okay, good. All right. So we're going to go to Refine Edge. And I want to show you a couple of things that I've learned since our last assignment. I want you to make sure that your output is to selection. That is very important. I wouldn't do anything with radius. I do like changing the view to overlay of this red, because see how that white just showed up right there? That is very telling of what we're dealing with. I really don't do anything with smooth. I hardly do anything with feather. It's on 1.5. And then my contrast, I can play with contrast. You can really kind of tell what contrast does there. But I feel like the shift edge is key here. If I go too far, I'm getting into the figure. If I go too far out and get into the white, I want it just to where we're kind of cutting in on any kind of white that could be there, almost cutting in on the image just a slight bit. And maybe we can sharpen the edge a little bit. Okay, we're going to try that. We're going to see what that looks like. Looks like it's getting in on the edge quite a bit. But let's copy that and let's bring it over to our image and see what that looks like. Let's zoom in. It did eat in on his face and everything. So I'm going to Command Z on that. And this is where we're really working with those, your selections are really important. I think I'm going to take down the feather on that. I think that has something to do with that. I'm going to shift the edge out just a bit. Start to see a little white right there. But let's try that. Still feels like we're in very far. So let me go back. Wow, it's not shifting the edge. I don't know what's happening. I don't know why. Something I think about. Interesting. It's not shifting the edge. I wonder if it's smart radius has anything to do with that. Oh well. Let me try that now. Okay, I think that's going to do better. I think something about my having selected that and then doing the refine edge again. When I shift the edge, I went all the way out. I should see more of that white, but okay. Let's tuck that in a little bit. Okay, let's try that. Okay, Command C. I don't pretend to be a know-it-all with this. I'm sort of learning as we go as well, and I feel pretty good about that. Although we do have some white right there, and if you really wanted to clean that up some, you could come over to the eraser and kind of clean that up a little bit if you want to. Time consuming, maybe. Does it make it look better? It does. And you can do that. I just wanted to show you that you could, okay? So you can really get that edge where there's no kind of white showing around that, because that kind of really messes things up. All right, so we don't want this guy floating in the air like that, okay? We want to put him somewhere in this scene to where it's believable. So I'm going to go Command T because we're going to resize and move. I feel like a good spot for this figure is going to be right here because we're going to put our T-Rex right there. Now, one thing that's important about whenever you place a figure within a scene is looking at the head size to know where in space and depth. Things that are closest to us are bigger, things that are further away are smaller. So definitely is true for, like, if you look at the head size from this figure to this figure to this figure, that if we want this guy somewhere in here, that actually feels pretty good. I don't think I'm really going to have to resize that. So we'll go with that. I'm shrink it down just a touch since I moved him up just a little bit right there. Okay. Now I want this right here because I want to show you again, we're going to put this to where we want the figure further back in space, but it doesn't look that way because of this situation here. So I'm going to hit return, and now I'm going to go to my selection tool, polygon, select here, select here, select here, select here, and close that, delete, Command D to deselect, and now the figure really does look like he's behind that pole and behind it in this space. I might, I'm struggling here. Remember to hold shift key to constrain this as you resize. I kind of feel like maybe you should bring him down just a little more. There we go. I feel a little better about that. Turn. Okay, we'll go with that. Now I would like to maybe put a little cast shadow up under here. Shadows are important. You can see a little cast shadow here. Cast shadows are not really strong in this scene because they're like here, obviously there's cast shadow under his car. So what I'm going to do is take my eyedropper tool. The quick command for the eyedropper is the I key on the computer, on the keyboard. I'm going to select under his foot here for that color. Come over here. I'm going to create a darker version of that. And then I'm going to go to the brush tool. If I press the B key on the computer, now I have the brush tool. I'm going to increase the size on that a little bit. Do want to keep it kind of that soft edge. And opacity, we might lower the opacity. Let's try. That feels pretty good. Now, this bicycle's kind of in the way. I'm going to drop the opacity now because it's getting out from under his foot. So therefore, things should get a little lighter. I'm trying not to cover up that bicycle handle right there. Bicycle really is kind of in the way. Alright, that's not great, so I'm going to go in with the eraser now and clean that up. And that's too hard edge. Command Z on that. Go get a soft edge. Okay. That's okay. We'll go with that. Zoom out and yeah, it'll work. Alright, so although I will say the lighting on this figure is quite weird. That's the thing about it is the lighting on this figure doesn't quite work for this thing. He looks kind of lit a bit different. But you could go and adjust things like that too. So let's go to the Tyrannosaurus and work on it now. Basically, we're going to do the same selection process. Get the quick selection tool, use the plus, increase the size on that. Click here, doesn't select all the white. Click over here, select some more white. Click here, select some more, some more. And we gotta go in this negative space, decrease the size, select here, select over here, and now we've selected all the white. We're going to inverse, select inverse, and now we just have the dinosaur selected and not the white. We do need to fix these teeth. They didn't get selected. Going to decrease the size, click, click. Just got a little too much there that I wanted. Click right there. Would like to, let's see, I think that, yeah, that was, yeah. So that's selected. I like to get rid of that selection. Okay, I'm being fussy here. Okay. All right. So we got that. And we're ready to transfer it. So we're going to go to Command. Oh, let's do Refine Edge again. Sorry. Now, a lot of times what's nice is the Remember settings will sometimes work for both images, like whatever was on the last image, it'll use for this image. Sometimes not the case, so I'm going to work with this image just a little bit to see also if we can get the best quality selection possible. So I decreased the shift on the edge back towards the edge of the dinosaur, click OK, go Command C to copy, go to our scene, Command V to paste, it's asking to convert, yes, let's convert, creates a new layer. I do like that edge, there's no white showing around there, and it looks very convincing, very nice. Alright, so zoom out a little bit. Dinosaur is way too big for this thing, so we're going to Command T and hit the Shift key to constrain. Shrink it down some. Move it back here. I want to put that dinosaur somewhere in between this figure right here and this space here. So I'm going to get my feet somewhere around there. Dinosaur is still too big. Shrink it down. Move it over. Alright, I feel pretty good about that. So I'm going to hit the return key. Alright, so we've got a problem. The dinosaur's covering up the guy here. We're going to drop the opacity on the layer of the dinosaur. Maybe a little too much. Now we're going to go in with the eraser tool. Make sure it's on hard edge. Make sure the opacity is all the way up. Zoom in and start erasing. Anything that's covering over this guy from the dinosaur, we're going to erase. Once you bring the opacity back up, you might see some things that you missed. Zoom in on his face, shrink down the eraser tool, make sure I get his nose, make sure I get his mouth, his chin. Okay. So let me increase the opacity back onto the dinosaur. And looks like right here I got a little bit to erase. And that looks pretty good. Okay, so the dinosaur does look like he's behind him. Now, there's not much of the feet of the dinosaur to show a cast shadow, but I will do this real quick. For the dinosaur, he is staying on the ground. I wish I had his feet out a little bit further. I could have demonstrated this a little bit better. But we'll just do this. I'll put another layer up under the dinosaur. I'm going to take the eyedropper tool. Again, the eye key will select it. I will click here to select pavement. Go to the color picker, darken it up, hit the B key for the brush. The opacity is already kind of low. And I'm going to go in here and paint up under the foot here, this toe and this toe. And I want to get a little bit darker. Increase opacity. Now that white edge right there under that toe, that is really causing some problems with the selection. That's where your selection will really show up or not it turned out well or not. So now I'm on the layer of the dinosaur. I'm going to actually see if I can color over part of that. And that looks much better. Because that light against that dark was really showing up. So now if I zoom out, looks okay. I could go really dark. Seems like things got kind of blurred out. So if I go really dark right up underneath, that might just be a little too exaggerated. Yeah, that's a little better. Now, when you look at like a cast shadow up under her foot right there, how dark it is, that's what I was going for right there. So now that dinosaur really looks like he's sitting there. We don't notice that so much from a distance. That was just a detail I wanted to point out that you could do. Really, I would prefer his feet to be out a little bit first so that you could really enhance that situation. But and that was an okay attempt here. Maybe could have been just a touch darker. I might would take a little more time on that, but for demonstration purposes, I thought I would just leave it at that. Okay. Quickly moving on, I want to do some more things to our dinosaur. We've already done pretty much kind of some things we've already achieved before, but now I want to exaggerate some of the characteristics of this dinosaur. We are on the layer of the dinosaur. I want to go up to Filter and Liquify. Okay, I'm going to zoom in on this. I got to do Command plus. I can't just spread my fingers apart to zoom in on this. I've got to actually go Command plus to zoom in. So over here are some selections that we can use. I'm going to use this tool first as the bloat tool. I know my green arrow is covering up the word title, but the bloat tool. Notice whenever I click over here on any of these things kind of light up a little different in the numbers, right? So that we can kind of fine tune things. All right. So right now that's a circle for that is a little too small. We're going to increase that. I'm going to show you what happens when we click on this. Notice how it starts to bloat. The eye gets bigger, but notice this circle kind of right there is starting to appear. It's going to look kind of weird. So let me kind of shrink this down a little bit and then bloat and then increase, then bloat, then increase, then bloat, then increase, then bloat. All right. And now look at the eye. He's very kind of different looking. We can make him a very unique and different dinosaur. Okay. And that's what we're going for in this scene, something pretty fantastical. Now you can also shrink things. Let's say we want to shrink that nostril. We come over here and this is the pucker tool. So I'm going to click on that. Come over here and I can click, 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 and it will decrease things and make them shrunken. Okay. Just playing around, Okay, we're going to click OK on that. And there we go. I might get even going crazier on that eye, but we'll leave that. Then we want to make this kind of exaggerated teeth here, make them very menacing. So we will make this sort of a saber-tooth tyrannosaur. So we're going to lengthen these teeth right here, okay? And to do that, we're going to, actually we'll do this one and this one. We're going to use something called the smudge tool. Now, underneath this tool, you got these other tools, but the finger right here is the smudge tool. You also have a strength here. You also have like the brush selections. I want the hard edge we'll use for that. And we'll zoom in here. And what I'm going to do, that is a good size. I'm going to click and hold, then push. Click, hold, and push. Click, hold, and push. Now you can get kind of wavy with this and it kind of lose the characteristic just like if I did something like that. And that's kind of weird, so Command Z on that. So you want to try to keep a steady hand because this is a good hard edge of a tooth. And I'm just sort of pushing that out. Okay? I'm going to do the same thing over here. Just going to click, drag, and push. Click, drag, and push. And back out on that. Now you could go in with the eraser, maybe clean that up or something. Like if I wanted to have it more of a sharper edge. Hopefully we got the hard edge on this. We do. Okay, now it looks a little sharper. All right, now you got a little too thin there now too, but anyway, you get the idea. All right, so let's do some other exaggerated things on this. Let's change the color and contrast on this. This is not something we've done yet before. Again, I got to make sure we're on the right layer. We'll go to Image, Adjustments. We're going to go to Hue and Saturation. We're going to increase the saturation and get it very intensified and exaggerated. We can also push the colors in another direction to make it very bizarre. So pretty good about that. And we'll click OK. Now I could lighten it or darken it, but that's kind of not doing very good right there. I'll show you another thing if you want to change the contrast. Go to Image, go to Adjustments, go to, I believe it's with Brightness and Contrast. I can increase the contrast. It's not doing much there. Okay, decreasing the brightness, and there we go. We're getting some really interesting, kind of more contrasted kind of things there. There we go. Actually, I'm going to click OK on that, but also you could use image adjustments and levels, and this too can really shift things around. So I feel pretty good about that. Okay, so teeth are really coming out and showing up real well. A lot of good saturated colors, looks really kind of crazy. Now let's do two more last things and we'll be done. So we're going to shoot some lasers out of these eyes. I told you we're going to get crazy. So we're going to go to the polygon selection tool. I'm going to click here. I'm going to click somewhere out the same here because that was like the direction it's looking in. And come over here and make it kind of wider as it goes out. And then come back and then complete that selection. Okay. Now I'm going to pick a crazy color. I'm going to do something maybe kind of like that, kind of pink color, crazy. Click OK, do my fill bucket, and fill that in. Okay. Actually, let me undo that. You notice right here how that's not really quite working. I'm going to go to Command Z. I'm going to create a new layer and put it on top of the dinosaur. Now fill that in. Now it's going all the way to the eye. Okay. Now I'm going to hit Command D. Now that's a very hard edge laser. I feel like it should be kind of glowing or kind of a little softer on the edge. We're going to go and do something new and different. Go to Filter, go to Blur, go to Gaussian Blur. This is something I use quite a bit right now. There's a lot of blur on that. It's backed that way down. And that softens up the edge right there. That's getting a little too hard. That's getting a little better. Okay, I like that a lot. So I'm going to click OK. Now we want another laser shooting out the other eye, so we're just going to reuse this one. Matter of fact, let's just use the lasso tool this time. We never used the lasso tool, so I'm going to lasso this thing like that. Okay. And I'm going to copy that. I'm actually going to create another layer. Command D to deselect. Command V to paste. Command T, because I'm going to have to resize it and everything. Now let's position a place where I think the other eye would be at. I'm going to rotate that just a little bit. I'm going to have to increase the length on it. Okay. And now, since it is going to be behind the head, let's put this down, this layer. Oh, I gotta hit return. Put this layer down below the dinosaur, and now it looks like that laser comes out from behind the head. Okay. All right. Now we could do all kinds of other things with this, and I'm just going to leave it here like this and save this. But in your scene, I've had all kinds of students come up with different things before, and I'll show you examples of that. But for this purposes, just recreate what I've created here and turn that in. Okay.